I knew the body innately heals. It can't not.
A pocket of energy within myself.
This is for your mother. So just do this for her.
Let's figure out ways that we can actually use pleasure to come together and bring healing.
It's a modality where we go into your subconscious and change some of those limiting beliefs.
I'm Susan Marco, clinical hypnotist, and I have so many friends and people who have had big impact on my life, so I want to share them all with you. So, hello everybody, Susan Marco here with Trance Talks. This is our opportunity to have conversations with different practitioners across many alternative and, what's my thing? Across alternative modalities and disciplines. So I'm here today for part 2 with Jessie Lucas, because the first time we sat down to have our chat, as does happen sometimes when we get into this organic conversation, it takes off, and it goes in a direction that we maybe didn't plan for. And it's so juicy and wonderful that I invited you back, Jessie, to continue the conversation, because where we went after that part 1, after that first one, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to that first part also. But for now, we're going to be talking about aging, which is a topic I know on most of our minds. So Jessie, we just jumped on and we were talking about life changes and transitions and how things evolve, and the idea of shifting into surrender, letting go of control. And I'm going to let you speak on it, Jessie, because you were on a roll. And then I said, okay, let's record.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Susan. I am like bursting at the seams for this topic. Yeah. So much so that we couldn't even press record before we got into it. But thank you so much for inviting me back. And, I think it was a little flip-flop. When we spoke first about embodiment and movement, and I'm a yoga teacher, a personal trainer. I come from that world of physical health and well-being through the lens of movement. That was the subject. And what I think the edge we got to, and this is something that, gosh, for the past 10 years has been revealing itself layer by layer, is that the more we approach our health, our well-being, our longevity, our aging process, how we feel in our body, it really does come down to a few key things. And that's the door we were starting to open. So I'm so grateful to be able to come back and share this with you. So for a little context, I'm in that aging is a really interesting topic, and I get all the time. So I will disclose, oh God, I think I'm 46. I don't remember. I'm of the age where I don't remember how old I am. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, it gets better. Wait.
Pretty sure it's 46, but I'm in that zone right now where, aging elders. My father, unfortunately, has since passed. My belief is he was gone way too soon. He died of Agent Orange exposure, cancer. And, that really put aging into perspective for me, because he was happy, healthy. My paternal side, I had a really beautiful view on aging. His parents, my paternal grandparents, lived to 98 and 103. Happy, healthy, cognitively with it. They lived independently in their own home. My grandmother spent a little bit of time at the very, very end under some care, but that was really great. And my dad, I believe, was on that path as well. He was a gardener, a surfer, a musician, a traveler, just had a really beautiful joie de vivre, as they say. And something took over his health, this outside force, this toxic burden that there was just no winning. And that really put aging into perspective for me in a lot of ways. My mom is still alive. She's getting up there. She's making some life changes based on her abilities, approaching 80. And then I have, kids who are getting older. My youngest is about to graduate high school. I've got 2 bonus kids. So I'm in that, what do they call that, sandwich generation, where you're caring for those who went before you, caring for those who are coming along the path, and somehow also trying to care for yourself. And that's where these light bulbs went off for me. Some of the things we were just sharing about. I'll lay down these bullet points, and then if you want to kind of help me tease some of that out, I would love that.
Sure.
One of which is control. We were talking about, the surrender. I'm a type A, stubborn Aries. Having control feels very important to me, and I've really realized in the last several years, as I've watched, some peers pass away. I've watched some other major life changes happen. I asked myself, what if? Like, what would this look like if I loosened my white knuckle grip? What would this look like if I could surrender a bit? And it was hard. I deal with complex PTSD. I deal with, some other things. I feel like, gosh, like I'll lose it. I'll lose it if I loosen the grip. But there was this little fire in me that said, what if aging could equal more joy? What if aging could equal more freedom? And what I want to tie that to is there's this term that has been going around for quite a while. It's not new, this anti-aging term.
Right.
And a lot of people think anti-aging is a beauty game, right? Like, fight the wrinkles, don't, fight the gray hairs, don't look your age if you're aging. And I really want to challenge that. Well, that may be a category of wellness, and I'm not going to, poo-poo it or celebrate it necessarily. But what if anti-aging really meant pro-aging? And I feel like that's where my strong interest is as I continue to age, as I watch all these other people around me age, as I really think about what aging might look like for me, is that as I do things, I call them biohacks, the little ways that we actually can control what's going on in our body systems. I think of that as pro-aging. I think of that as, what if we can take away the overreactive symptoms of these toxic burdens, whether they are toxins from chemicals or from life's stresses, from emotional heaviness, from, wherever they are coming from. Our body reacts to stress. Stress is stress is stress is stress is stress, wherever it's coming from.
Sure.
And that degenerates how we live. And so tying this, what if we could live with more joy and more freedom, actually as a pro-aging technique, so to speak. So that's where I would love to focus this. So I'd love to hear any of your reflections or questions on what's going here.
A few things came up for me as you were speaking, and that pro-aging idea for me really is in mindset of aging is inevitable. The years are going to pass, and we're going to gather more years as we live on further, right? And what a gift it is to live into an old age, because many people are denied that privilege, like your dad. But the idea of embracing that and kind of, appreciating every step along the way, being grateful for every step along the way. That's really where, for me, the idea of pro-aging. And I've never really wrestled with. I've been kind of on this path for a very long time, in that I pushed against the idea of, like, people would say, oh, I'm going to turn 30. Oh, I'm getting so older. Oh, I'm turning 40. Oh, life is going to be over 50. You know what? When I hit 50, I was so grateful. I just wanted to step into being the best 50 that I could be. And I'm just going to tell you, Jessie, your 50s, you're going to love them.
I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait. I had a little mini revelation like that turning 40, however, I think it was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, there is something really cool on this side of things. And as I get closer to 50, I think because I had that revelation going into 40, and look, I had my 20s and 30s were really hard. They were really, really hard. And so part of it too, on the other side of it, I'm like, oh, I can have some control. So I'm flipping that sense of control and versus surrender into like, I can choose a different vibe here. And I don't want to speed up time, but I hear what you're saying. And I am looking forward to that unveiling that comes on the other side of 50. Something you just said though made me think, the mindset piece. Because I'm really big on mindset too. And this is something that I struggled when I was approaching 30. So my 20s, I had both my babies in my 20s, one in my early 20s, one in my later 20s. I was in an abusive relationship that was really hard to get out of. My 30th birthday was my I'm back birthday. I had just gotten divorced and left that. So then my 30s was all about kind of really just finding my footing and surviving single parenting, homeschooling 2 kids. So by the time I got to 40 and I had a little more stability, I had a little bit more distance from all of that hardship. And y'all, that was just the very, very short version of that hardship. And I'm sure you can relate, look back at your times in your life of chapters that seem unending, that may have gone on too long, that do feel like a burden. I struggled with the mindset piece because I'd look around and I have a very strong positive mindset. Like I said, I've got that stubborn Aries, I've got tenacity, I've got persistence, I've got stick-to-itiveness. And at some point there was conflict because my mindset, I thought, was great. And my body was struggling in other ways because it was harboring the hardship, it was harboring the trauma, I'd look around and say, I have big goals, I have big dreams, I have great community, I have great outlook, I have great whatever. And then I'd look around and not feel like I was living into that vision. And that felt very defeating. And I hear a lot of people who are dealing with chronic conditions, chronic physical conditions, diagnoses, if their body is rejecting the healthy aging process.
Sure.
And so to have places where we can come and actually support those from I always love when the mindset and the physical kind of meet, and then you have this explosive, expansive blossoming into something that's like, that's how it should feel. I just wanted to kind of add that facet and dynamic, because maybe some of your audience is like me, where you are like gung-ho mindset junkie. You've been on it for decades and still something doesn't feel like it's quite clicking in. And I feel like that's where some of that acceptance into the physical aging part, and acceptance being like, accepting, yes, your body will change, your face might change, your hair might change, something might change, but also accepting that we don't have to buy the story that degeneration comes with aging. That's one of those pieces that really, when you're looking at your mindset, the story is out there all around. You don't see a lot of successful aging stories like my grandparents. A lot of it is, get put into a home, and there are wonderful ways to care for our aging population. And then there are horror stories.
Right.
And I think that's what, at least in our culture here, we are being sold that aging equals degeneration, that we're going to lose our minds, we're going to lose our physical functioning. And what that does to somebody's mindset is it's pretty bleak. And, that's what I want to challenge.
It's very scary, really. If I'll be 66. So when I turned 60, we threw a big party, right? And I had a lot of people, we had a lot of friends here. And I remember I turned around to my husband at one point and I said, oh my gosh, like there really is less time ahead of us than behind us. Because I don't think I'm of the generation that I'm going to live to 120. So it's not like I'm more than halfway there, probably. Who knows? Listen, I'm open if I'm still, thriving and physically I'm doing well, and, mentally everything is well, sure, I'll live as long as I can. And I'll probably continue to work as long as I can, because it gives me purpose. And, like, I love what I do. I don't ever want to give that up. But one of the other things I just wanted to get in is that when you were talking about control, and being a recovering control freak myself, it is a lot of it kind of looking back or recognizing where that trauma lives. And when those feelings of fear come up, being able to just sit for a minute and say, am I safe? Whatever is happening right now, am I okay? Am I safe? I'm safe. So I can let go of that. I can surrender a little more because I know I'll be okay. I trust that everything is going to work out the way that it needs to. And I also have trust and faith that I will do the things that I need to do to take care of my body, to take care of my mind. And even on a soul level, it's up to us. So I love that.
It's so cool about what you just said, and I feel like this is where our two worlds have a meeting point. When you do that, when you can do that successfully, take that moment of pause to really, in that moment of pause is an opportunity to change your physiological reaction. When you can access that, you're actually changing your gene expression. You're actually changing your neural pathways and patterns, and that can accumulate over time. Susan, I look at you unbelievably at 66 because you have that essence of vitality to you. And that's how I want to grow up. That's how I want to age. And that is, I believe, available, dare I say, to all of us with these kinds of tools. And it does come down to that. However you're creating those things. Look, when your body's reacting in fear all the time, it is pumping out those appropriate fear chemicals, right? Adrenaline, cortisol. You're living in that soup of stress response, most of us to some degree 24/7. And when we don't get a break from that little moment where we can actually have that mind-body connection of, oh, I am safe, and have your body believe it, have that congruence between your head and your heart and even your gut, because we know a lot of these reactions, we say that gut reaction, like we just know, to operate in a fear response. And we don't want to turn that off. That's a survival mechanism. Like we want to be, even in this modern day, aware of when we should be fearful and react to that. But when we're reacting to that all the time, that is when aging equals degeneration, because your body can only recover from stress when it is able to be safe, to actually respond in that recovery mechanism. So that's what I love about your work, is you have tools to actually access your subconscious and create a space where that mind, body, gut can be congruent and actually now swim in that soup of safety. Your gene expression can reflect that. You are then having, turning down those cortisol and adrenaline levels, turning up the dopamine and serotonin levels, turning up the physiological experience of peace. And, and there are other ways to do that too, where I work on that nutritional synergy level to actually like influence your gene expressions to create ways to come out of that inflammatory state, come out of that stress response state. And I think we just really brought it full circle here to where you can release into that surrender if you can teach your body how to respond and actually for extended periods of time be in a safety zone, however you're accessing that. And then aging can equal joy instead of aging equal degeneration. I think we just brought it beautifully full circle there.
Yes. And, and again, I want to reiterate that idea of embracing all of that, even the moments when things aren't going so well. because there's balance, right? We have to have the moments where we don't feel well to really appreciate when we have the moments that we do feel well. So there's something to gain or to grow from or to learn from everything. You know, whether it's a trigger, like a psychological trigger where you get, you know, so like I had something old come up recently and it was huge, but I knew in the moment that it was okay because it was showing me something that still needed some healing. So it gave me the opportunity to dig in, you know, and address that thing. And I think it's the same thing with the physical, you know, when we have these things that show up like menopause, like you know, just whatever, the physical things that come about naturally through the body aging, we can figure out, we can address them, we can try. Like, I love that the way that you work nutritionally, I want you to talk a little bit about that, because when you say nutritionally, the products and the things that you offer are not SOP. Do you know, they're not like the standard things you go to the health food store and you buy this thing off the shelf because it says it's going to help your cell life. Like, just give our listeners a little idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, I'll touch on that. I can summarize it in one word, which is activation. And it really, there is a way to work with, you know, food ingredients, nutrients that can influence the key messengers in your genes. So for example, a specific blend of 5 herbs in a specific ratio has the right, it's like a lock and key that says, when your cells receive that, it says, oh, I know what this cell signal imprint says. It says make more antioxidant enzymes. The result of that is turning down those inflammatory responses, reducing what in science they call oxidative stress. You probably know it as inflammation or free radical damage. And so instead of trying to kind of like hyper dose with good for you things, I think, you know, a really good example is even if you are doing quote unquote all the right things, you're hydrating, you're sleeping, you're eating a balanced diet, whatever that looks like for you. And I'm of the mindset, you know, we all have different constitutions. There's no one right way to eat. That and even in different seasons of our lives, we may have different kind of nutritional needs that come and go. But it's really, really simple, because when you can key in on what are the major influences to degeneration, and it's not unknown, it's not hidden science. We know it's that inflammation, that oxidative stress. We know mitochondrial function, how your body produces energy. We know how to influence your longevity genes, that in your cellular autophagy, how you clean up the gunk. And look, if you've been lucky enough to been around for several decades, you've got some gunk in your cells. It's like the exhaust buildup in your car kind of thing. We know the key body systems. It's kind of akin to functional medicine if you follow that. And we know how to influence, how to turn those body processes back on and work as they did when they were fully functional, instead of when they started to dysfunction because of age over time, because of these cellular stresses, you know, because of life's toxic burdens. So that's the kind of nutrition that I work with, yes, through easy to consume products that actually address those main theories on aging from an activating your body's own response that it was pre-programmed with, instead of trying to override it or supplement it or medicate it. It's really, to me, as I age, I want to work in sync with my own body's rhythms and optimize the functions that I already have, instead of trying to kind of, like, you know, like I just said, override them, because that doesn't feel natural to me. So I'm happy, you know, anyone who's listening to this who wants to nerd out, or just say, hey, that's my problem, give me the solution. I am more than happy to go on further about that. But that's the nutshell version.
I love it, Jessie. I really, and if you're watching this right now, you just have to look at the light that this woman exudes. And I mean, you look fabulous. So keep doing what you're doing, because it's definitely working. And if people are interested in nerding out and talking with you more about it, where would be the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yep. So on social media, and I think you're going to put my my handles in this. Jessie B. Lucas is mostly, I think, where they are. My link tree should be linked to this. I think it is Jessie B. Lucas, the link tree. I got to get better at knowing this in my head. But Susan, feel free to put all my contact information there, or find me on social media and reach out there. I am a happy introvert who loves to socialize on those platforms. So I'm always happy to get a message and create a connection that way.
I love it so much. And thanks for jumping on again and having this, extended conversation, because I think it's something people really are interested in and we need help with.
Yeah, well, I know I do. I need help moving into this next chapter. It's been hard, and I want to enjoy the rest of whatever time I'm blessed to have, and I know others do too. So my absolute pleasure, and thank you again so much for hosting this beautiful platform to have these conversations.
I love you. Take care. See ya.